So, yesterday or Tuesday now, by the time you watch this, I watched the recent episode of Dark Side of the Ring on Abdullah the Butcher, and it was it was a good episode. They got his sister, his brother, they got his caretaker, who he met, um, while she was feeding the homeless and everything. So, you know, um, basically it's kind of weird that I start doing this, and that's when she wakes up. That being that being my mom. Um, anyway, like I said, they got his sister, his brother, his caretaker. They talked to Tony Atlas, if you will. They talked to Tony Atlas. Who else? Who else did they talk? They talked to Mick Foley because Mick worked with him. Mick rode with him, teamed with him, fought him in WCW and in Japan, and I think in Puerto Rico. They did focus a lot on his time in Puerto Rico at times when he would face Carlos Colon, Carlito's dad, and face some other stars there as well. And I guess the biggest skit for any of us that follow, that follow him on YouTube like I do, is they got Devin. I think his name is Devin Nicholson, aka Hannibal. Yeah, the guy that currently right now is involved in two legal situations. One that he's actually winning somewhat against Abdullah, and another because of what he did under a mask as Blood Hunter. I think that was him. Um, at a show that was being promoted, he did something to basically a referee that really got people talking, busted him up, but legitimately busted up the referee back. But they did talk to him because of the hepatitis C case that was going on, still kind of going on to this day. Of course, they did get Abdullah. They got Abdullah, um, and again, it was good. It was actually a very good episode. Very kind of sad, bittersweet, sad episode, and everything as well because you see this guy that when he was in Japan, he was like he was an icon, and I mean, and when I'm talking an icon, I'm talking cross, platform like icon, anime, manga, video games, commercials. He did his own freaking. He even recorded his own album in Japan and everything. So yeah, he was a massive megastar over there, and he had fights with the likes of Giant Baba, Antonio Inoki. He fought, Bruiser Brody over there, not just here in the States, but over there as well. Terry Funk he's been in the ring with over there and here in the States, and so on. And like I said, Mick Foley is Cactus Jack, and yeah, it was just it was a good episode, but very kind of like bittersweet and depressing, because of what's going on with him right now. You know, financially he's not doing so well. He's not. I mean, even his caretaker told the guys, the interviewers, Evan and I think his co-host or whatever that were doing the interviews, who are also behind the show, who are also behind Dark Side. Um, she told them that one of the reasons she couldn't let them further into the house or even into the house is because there was a lot of things that were falling apart. Like he had a light fixture where water was leaking out, and that could be dangerous and stuff. There was like there's certain things that need to be attended to. Because one of the things that surprised a lot of people, they even got Hugo Savinovich. They even got Hugo Savinovich, the Spanish announcer, the head Spanish bilingual announcer for AAA, former head Spanish play-by-play announcer for WWE, and even had a brief period in TNA Impact. Excuse me. They got him as well because he used to manage Abdullah in Puerto Rico, for 5 years, and he rode around with him. And one of the shocking things that they found out is, this being Mick, this being Hugo, and I think even Devin, but Devin doesn't really believe it, is Abdullah can't read or write because he didn't finish any further than the second grade. But yet, but yet and this is what makes people kind of wonder whether or not he's just, if Abdullah is not totally being honest, you know. I mean, his siblings believe him. His sister and his brother, they believe him and all that. Um, but everybody else is kind of like finding that hard to believe because it's like, well, he was able to do this, he's able to do that. You know, how is that possible, right? How is that possible? Hold on for a second. Sorry about that. But like I said, again, some people find it hard to believe him. His siblings, of course, defended him. I mean, they talked about the fact that they grew up in this small house to where his brother actually had to sleep in the tub. The bathroom, they had a singular, I don't know if it's a singular, I think they had, the way, the shape of the house basically showed it was a singular bathroom, I think. I don't know if they've expanded on that or not, but basically, Abdullah, but basically his brother had to sleep in the bathtub. Basically, the bathroom was his room, and everybody else had to, like, if they had to do their business, mostly the guys, they would do their business outside, or they would like if the guys had to piss, they had to piss in a can. Abdullah's brother wouldn't let his mom or his sister, I think, do that, so he would get like, okay, I'll leave, let you do your thing, and then come back in, because that was his room. That was his room, according to what he said. Um, but yeah, basically Abdullah made a promise because Abdullah basically was, outside of his wrestling persona, was a very kind, helpful soul, and he he wanted to do what he could to help his family, and he would make, mostly his mom, so he would try to make money selling candy. He would spend, you know various, like, certain candies at the time were like a few pennies, a nickel or something like that back then. So he would try to sell the candy he would buy to make some money and everything. And that's when he realized, okay, I can't do that. I got to figure out other ways to make money. So he would do all these other things. He would do like mowing people's lawns. He would, I guess, have little businesses here and there where he would sell things. Like he would ask he would ask older couples for old clothes that they don't use anymore that he could sell and stuff. Just anything to make ends meet for his help make ends meet for him and his family. Because his mom would scrub floors and stuff at mortuaries. I think that's what it was. So one day when he basically made enough, he was, and this is after he became famous. He basically took his mom and said, "You're not going to work another day in your life," and she never did, apparently, according to what they said. And yeah, he kept that promise to really make sure his mom would never have to do that kind of stuff again. So yeah, it was so yeah, it was a lot of good moments in there that they showed about Abdullah, but they also would show that he's the kind of guy that could get into character and throw you off, like really just surprise you. Because when they talked about him in Hannibal, and the match, in the match they were going to have for Abdullah's retirement, or one of them anyway, I think it was his retirement. They showed footage from a Canadian talk show where it had Abdullah on there, and as Abdullah's leaving after the interview, he decides to attack the male co-host, but it's more like a playful attack, but it's enough to where, according to Devin, the co-host was bleeding just a bit and kind of shooken up, like he went into a little bit of shock, but was able to keep his composure. He was able to keep his composure and all that. And then, of course, when they talked to Hannibal, they mentioned that Hannibal looked up to Abdullah as his mentor and everything, and Abdullah, I guess, helped him out a little bit, trying to get into who his character would be and stuff. And basically, Devin did get an opportunity to compete for WWE. They showed footage of him on SmackDown. I can't remember who it was against, but he got a tryout, he got an opportunity, but all that fell through when they did a blood test and found out he had hepatitis C. And, he was kind of surprised, like, how could I have contracted this, right? Like, how could I have contracted this disease? I don't know how. But basically what it was is he contracted it thanks to his match with Abdullah. Abdullah's retirement match in a cage. And what happened is that Abdullah, he's known for always like taping up his finger and always having a blade or some kind of glass in there where he would geek his own forehead and everything. And then maybe he'd have an extra piece of glass for the opponent to geek themselves to make it look like, okay, you've been busted open by me and stuff like that, or whatever. So what happened is that, and this, I'm sure a lot of you know about this, Abdullah, gigs himself with the thing, but then he starts gigging Hannibal in the head as well, and that's what happened. And when they mentioned this to Hugo, like I said, Hugo used to manage him. He couldn't believe it until they showed him the footage, and he's like, "Oh my God!" It's like he could not believe Abdullah did that. He couldn't. So yeah, it was. But yeah, it was an episode that, again, there is some silver linings in it, but the ending is kind of one to where it's like, he Abdullah, he's still dealing with a lot of stuff going on right now in his life financially and all that. Um, he's a lot of debt, but Lord, and even his caretaker said this, by the grace of God, he's going to be okay, and I believe he will be. I do believe he will be all right because he he probably has some money saved away, or at least his caretakers and his family's made sure he's had some money saved away just in case. But because of the fact that he doesn't know how to read or write, apparently, they're probably keeping that money away from him and probably giving it to him when he needs it, which is why he's able to, in my opinion, keep a roof over his head. So yeah, it's a good episode. A little bit like it's a little sad, a little bit bittersweet and stuff in certain areas. But yeah, like I said, one of the big gods, if you're a YouTuber and you follow the guy, is Hannibal. They got him to talk and because of to talk and bring up his situation. They even touched upon the legal situation he's in right now because of the referee and all that. And they showed footage from that match or from that incident and everything. So even though he won his case, against Abdullah, you know, he's in a situation to right now to where he could end up losing a case against the referee, and if not him, it could be the promoter that booked him. So um, so yeah, it's a good episode. Like I said, kind of bittersweet, a little sad in areas, but it's all right. It's actually all right and everything. In the end, because I know that, because and I know there's a light at the end of their tunnel for Abdullah, and I think he's going to be fine. I think it's going to be okay. Again, a lot of people feel like, when you have him and you have his caretaker and you have his sister and his brother coming out and saying, yeah, he doesn't know how to read, he doesn't know how to write. Some people are surprised to hear that, like Hugo's surprised by it, Mick's surprised by it, and all that, and even Devin, he's surprised by it, but he doesn't, Devin Hannibal, if you doesn't believe it, you know, it kind of, it still makes you wonder exactly what is going on with Abdullah, because they said if he could read a menu and everything and even write a signature for checks and everything to cash them or deposit them, it's like, where did this suddenly come from? So, so there are some questions that would still need to be answered and everything, but, when it comes to, whether or not he's telling the truth or his family's telling the truth, his caretaker and all that. But again, overall, I thought the episode was good, a little bittersweet, neat and, sad ending, but, it's an ending that makes you kind of give your own thoughts on it. But that's all I have to say on it.